Mr. and Mrs. Walker, about a year and a half ago, the defendant had a daycare. At that time, your children, the oldest was 9, and then you had a 5-year-old and an infant who was 4, and you were working. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. 4 months.
And you brought all 3 children over to the daycare, and this was July 2nd of 2015.
Correct.
This was not the first time you had taken the children to her daycare, is that correct?
That's correct.
How long had they been going to the daycare?
Almost 2 years, my older children were. And since my youngest was about 7 weeks old, I had started taking him to them.
Now, I'm going to start now with you. Miss Shearer?
Yes.
Do you have your own children?
I do.
How old?
I have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
So at the time, Miss Walker, I think, dropped off the children.
Yes.
Your children were at home?
Yes.
So she had 3, you had 4.
3 of my children were at home.
Between your children and her children, there were 6 children.
Correct.
How many other children were you caring for in July of 2015?
That day, I was caring between 4 and 6 more children.
Between 10 and 12 children.
Correct.
And who was there with you?
My husband.
Period.
Yes.
How much do you get per child? For
$20 a day is what I normally charge.
And you were charging her $20 a day or $60?
I don't believe
How
so.
much was she charging you?
It was $350 for every 2 weeks.
And did you know that she had between 4 and 6 other children aside from her own?
I did not know an exact number, but I knew there was other children there.
Did you know how many people she had taking care of all these children?
No. Well,
Between 10
who
and
was
12
working at the
children?
daycare, I knew that both of them were working at the daycare.
What state do you live in?
Idaho?
You need a license to have a daycare in your house?
Yes, ma'am.
You still have your license?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you care for now?
Between 10 and 12.
With him?
By myself.
Where is he?
He has a job.
Now, your 4-month-old child had a broken leg,
Yes.
and you dropped him off at the daycare. He was fine.
That morning, he was perfectly
Very
fine.
Subsequently, you got a call from the defendant who said that she couldn't stop him from crying. Is that right?
Correct.
Your lawsuit wants her to pay for your medical bills because she thought that they would be covered by some Crime Victims Compensation Act. But they weren't because they found that nobody probably purposely broke a child's leg.
Only found that there wasn't enough
Don't
evidence.
tell me what they found. They weren't covered. Now, this is your story that I'm getting from your papers,
Yes.
right? You were in the kitchen cooking.
Correct. It was lunchtime.
In the kitchen, you have a swing set up.
No, in the living room. It's a
Just a
straight room.
So it's one large room.
Yes.
So the swing is in the living room.
Correct.
And the baby was okay when she dropped the baby off.
Yes, ma'am.
Then I'm reading your answer, and you say that the 9-year-old was holding the baby
Correct.
and playing rough with the baby.
Correct.
Let me see what you wrote here. So her 9-year-old, who you're supposed to be watching, was, let me just get the words right here, Bird. The baby was crying, so his older brother got him out of the swing and he stopped crying.
Correct.
The baby started crying again, and when I turned around, do you remember what you saw?
Yes.
Tell me what you saw.
The brother had the baby on his back on the floor. He had his legs up in the air. He was holding his legs or ankles, and he was twisting him back and forth throughout the living room.
Okay, so what did you do?
I asked him to please stop.
You asked him, according to you, I told him to pick up the baby and play nicely.
Correct.
You're an idiot. How could any state allow you to take care of children? You see a 9-year-old playing roughly with a 4-month-old infant who you have already told to take out of a swing because the baby was crying. That's your job. You leave the sink, or you leave the television, or you leave whatever you're doing, and you go inside and you attend to the baby. Not you. You tell the 9-year-old, play nicely. According to her, I just want you saw the baby being taken by the legs and ankles and swung. This was the motion that you made, and swung around the room. And you say to a 9-year-old, play nicely. I'm going to read on. When the baby continued to cry, and you turn away. Because it says, when the baby continued to cry, I looked to see what was going on. So now you tell him, play nicely. After you saw him swinging around the baby, play nicely, you went back to doing what you're doing. Your nails, the TV, something. Because God knows where he was.
We were making
And the older brother was still not being gentle enough. Again, do you run in Does genius over here run in, take this 4-month-old defenseless infant away from a 9-year-old little boy? No, not the two of you. I told the older brother he wasn't playing with him correctly and to put him back in the swing. The baby never stopped crying after that. If the state of Idaho doesn't take away your license to take care of other people's children, I have no idea who's running that shop. No idea. Outrageous. So I assume from this answer that, according to you, it's the 9-year-old's fault.
I don't know that it happened in my care.
Well, in all the time that you were taking care of the baby, prior to that, did you ever call the mother and say to her, come and pick up the baby won't stop crying?
No.
In all the time that you took care of the baby? No. And this time you called her and said, come and pick up the baby won't stop crying. And within 24 hours, the baby was in surgery for a broken leg. You think that that's coincidental?
Maybe the baby was having a bad day. She had suggested that he was constipated when I called her.
If I were running the social service department in Idaho, tomorrow, your license should be yanked. Tomorrow.
They did an investigation and they
Tomorrow! Then the person who did an investigation had an IQ in the double digits. In a minute. Because how you can justify, all you have to read is your answer, which I believe. You and the genius were inside cooking. You have 10 to 12 children, including a 4-month-old infant, and your babies, and you have to be cooking together so that nobody is really watching the 4-month-old baby. Nobody. We're done. I'm so upset. Anyway, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That will cover $4,000 of your medical bills plus some. You have a counterclaim for legal fees because you had to hire a lawyer because of charges that... Good! Counterclaims dismissed. We're done.
Those are excused. You may step out.